and gentlemen, what is up? Big Red Reviews here, back with another video. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. If you remember, about a year or two ago, I made a short little video with Shane where I did the Marvel timeline, and now I'm with Billy. You can show yourself, Billy. There he is. I forced him to film this. Now we're going to be doing the Star Wars timeline. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, kind of put it off. But I know this timeline better than Marvel. So let's go ahead and get started, guys, with Phantom Menace, which is 32 BBY. And just so you know beforehand, BBY is basically the equivalent to BC. It is before the Battle of Yavin. So we use the starting point of A New Hope as 0. So 0. We're going to be going 32 and up all the way to 0. Then after New Hope, we're going to be in ABY, which is after Battle of Yavin. Or some people use Death Star Destruction, but Battle of Yavin is easier. So basically, Phantom Menace is where we're starting. By the way, we're only doing movies and TV shows. Fuck the books. Fuck the comics. There's like hundreds of those shits. I don't give a fuck. Correction, I love the books. I love the comics. I read them. I just wanted to be funny here, guys. Cut me some slack. But I meant that it's too much to include in a timeline video. This video would be 3 hours long. Go watch Star Wars Theory and some of those popular YouTubers who cover Star Wars stuff. They cover the books and comics if you care that much. Thanks. We're doing TV shows and we're doing movies. Phantom Menace, we all know. We'll get the gist of it. You meet Qui-Gon Jinn, top 5 Jedi of all time, by the way. Fight me on it. You meet Jar Jar Binks, who's low-key a Sith Lord. I don't give a fuck when anyone says he is a Sith Lord. And you meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. They go to Tatooine. They meet Anakin Skywalker. You meet Padme. They have a weird little 9-year-old and 16-year-old love thing. It's kind of weird. You have to get over that a little bit. And you have perhaps the best lightsaber fight in the whole saga, which is Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon dies. Obi-Wan takes Anakin as his Padawan, and the rest is history, which we will be getting to. And Phantom Menace is overly hated. I feel like it is pretty good. It's a good watch. There's a lot of politics in it, but it is a good watch, and that is where we start our timeline and all the pain and destruction that we get to. This one, Attack of the Clones, is 10 years later, which is 22 BBY. And this is one of the more hated prequels, but anything's better than the sequels, let's be honest here. This is where we see the Clone Wars fully begin. We see Palpatine's plan fully start coming into action. You see him, you hear about these clones. Kenobi's trying to figure out who manufactured them. You have the Battle of Geonosis. You have Jango dying from Mace Windu. Boba taking over that role. You see Anakin a little bit more to the dark side. His mom dies from the Tusken Raiders, and he kills them, even with Qui-Gon telling him no as a Force ghost. And you just see him slowly starting to lose it. His love for Padme is fully taking over at this point, and he doesn't care what anyone says. He wants Padme, and even if it's against the Jedi. And Obi-Wan kind of knows that, but he lets it slide if it means Anakin's happy. You stop recording for a sec. I gotta think of what I'm about to say. Did you stop? Did you stop? Alright, now I did fuck up here, guys. Sorry. Where Clone Wars is actually supposed to be in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, but technically not, because some of it takes place after, which I'll explain. So basically, we're going to do Clone Wars first. This takes place from 22 to 19 BBY. Fuck that up. Anyways, that is a 3-year Clone War, and this is the TV show, the animated. Yes, I know it's animation. Please go watch it. People dying left and right. The final 4 episodes of Clone Wars take place right before, during, and after Revenge of the Sith. You see where Ahsoka was. You see Obi-Wan talk about how Anakin just killed Dooku. You hear Order 66 happen from Ahsoka's point of view. You see what happens to Rex. You see fucking Vader at the end in Clone Wars animation. You see Anakin's eye. You see Vader pick up a blue lightsaber. Please go see it. Please, just those 4 episodes. Please, God. Now, that leads into the best prequel and perhaps the best Star Wars movie of all time, depending who you talk to. I won't disagree with that. Mine is Empire Strikes Back, but I know his and my friend Chase love Revenge of the Sith, and honestly, I sometimes go back and forth myself. This takes place 19 BBY, perhaps the worst year for the whole galaxy. Shit really hits the fan here. Palpatine fucking wins. Anakin becomes Vader, which leads to so many deaths in the only 25 years he is as Vader. He kills so many people. Yeah, so we see the Clone Wars finally start to come to an end. Everyone's optimistic. They're like, this is it. Anakin beheads fucking Dooku in the first 5 minutes of the movie. What the fuck's going on? You see Anakin and Obi-Wan. Anakin actually apologizes to Obi-Wan. He's like, I know I've been erratic. I'm sorry. You're like a father to me. And that's the last time I see each other. Order 66, perhaps the most iconic moment in Star Wars history. thanks to Clone Wars fleshing it out more, the clones turn on the Jedi. What? They turn on the Jedi? Yes. And before the Clone Wars, it just made it look like they were following orders, which I'm glad the Clone Wars retconned it now that they always had a chip inside of them. Thank God. You see Obi-Wan go lose against, or beat Anakin. You see Yoda go get his ass cheeks clapped by Palpatine. You see Mace Windu die from Anakin and Palpatine. And basically Palpatine wins. And that's what makes this movie so good, is that the villain wins. It's like Infinity War. When the villains win, it's a nuts movie. This leads, of course, to Clone Wars, which leads, I didn't put it on here, the Bad Batch, which takes place right after the Clone Wars. You see how the clones are coming into the new order, all that stuff, and it's really cool. I can't say much about it because there's only one season in, but yeah, can't say much. Solo is 10 BBY. This is a very underrated movie. Please, God, if you haven't seen it or anything, please go watch this movie. You see Han Solo meet Chewbacca. You see Lando, which is perhaps some of the best casting of all time, with Donald Glover playing Lando Calrissian. And it's just a really fun movie. The guy Alden, I don't know his last name, who plays Han Solo, really great actor. You can tell he's having fun with the role. Him meeting Chewie is funny. There's some funny scenes in there. The Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs is an insanely fun time, visually, and like the score is just nuts. And yeah, I really hope there's a sequel. You see Darth Maul, Emilia fucking Clarke's in it, and I really hope there's a sequel because people hated it because it came out after Last Jedi, but it's really good. Now we get to Rebels, which is actually, we get to Obi-Wan Kenobi, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot to put it there, 10 BBY. Basically, it's the Kenobi show. Kenobi finds out Vader's alive and he's Anakin. Great fight scene. I don't want to say much about it because it's kind of newer, but it's really good. Please go watch it. The fight between Obi-Wan and Vader is probably one of the best lightsaber fights, I'd agree. The second one, not the first one. Rebels is 5-0 BBY, with the final scene of the last episode taking place right after episode 6, which we'll get to later. I haven't even really seen a lot of this. You see more of Ahsoka. You find out she's alive. You see her find out that Anakin is Vader. You see a very good fight. You see more of Palpatine trying to learn of this mystical place and time where you can go anywhere in time. Ezra Miller, you meet Thrawn. Guys, you cannot make this up. I just said Ezra Miller. I meant to just say Ezra. His name's Ezra Bridger, not Ezra Miller, okay? Not the actor that's doing weird shit every day. I'm talking about Ezra Bridger. I can't believe I said that. Who, if you've read we're not mentioning the books, but Thrawn is probably the best leader in the Empire. You see them disappear at the end, and that leads into the Ahsoka show, which is coming out next year, which is live action, where Ahsoka is going to be looking for Ezra and Thrawn. And this also introduces Kanan Jarrus, the voice actor who is Fred from fucking the Scooby-Doo live action movie. He gets blind, he's badass. Watch the show. It's a little kiddie. It's not as good as Clone Wars, but it's really good. Now we start getting into the juicy 5-peat that runs here. We have Rogue One, which is obviously 0 BBY. If you want to get really technical, it's like 1 hour BBY because it's literally like an hour leading up to New Hope. This is arguably in my top like 3 or 4, no cap. We meet Jyn Erso, her dad, and this movie really introduces the plot hole, which was in A New Hope, which was, why is there a big ass exhaust port sticking out of the Death Star? And like, who invented that? It's been riffed on by Family Guy and all that stuff. You find out that her dad...
That is fantastic. Terrific work. So no weaknesses at all, huh?
No.
You hesitated there. Is there something I should know?
No, it's virtually indestructible, like 99.99%.
Okay. Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask what's the .01.
Well, I mean, there's this little hole. It was kind of an aesthetic choice by the architect, and if you shoot a laser into this hole, the station blows up.
I put that in there. You see Saw Gerrera, you see Jedha get exploded, you meet Orson Krennic, you see the Death Star finally done, you see Vader, badass Vader voiced by James Earl Jones. So sad we lost him, but he's not dead, but he gave up the rights to the character so they can use his voice in AI. The final hour of this movie is arguably some of the best Star Wars you've ever seen. It's a space battle, the battle on Scarif, Vader, what my personal top 3 scene, Vader's hallway scene in the hallway of the Tantive 4, which leads right into A New Hope. Literally, you can pop A New Hope in, and it's literally one giant movie. Great job with this movie, Disney. We need more Star Wars like this. Not this shit. Not this shit. Yeah, zoom in on that piece of trash, which we'll get to. Yeah, thank you. All right, now we get to arguably the best trilogy of all time. I might be a Star Wars nerd, but obviously we have some stuff over here to prove that. But New Hope, obviously, 0 BBY. What happens in A New Hope? We all know. You meet Luke Skywalker, the G. He's in Tatooine. You meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. You meet all these iconic characters, Han Solo. You see them come to grips with the war and what's going on and what it means to be a soldier. You see the Death Star. You meet Vader and the Trench Run. And this just blew... This is what makes a movie, and this is what makes this whole world happen, is everything introduced in this movie. George Lucas, you are a fucking legend. Thank you for this. And this is arguably what Star Wars should be, is, you know, a lot of emotion. And people who bitch about politics being in Star Wars, like, all this new shit, like, especially the prequels got shit on this heavy with politics. And keep politics out of Star Wars. And, like, Kenobi was getting shit on because of some casting. Politics has always been Star Wars, guys. He literally based A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi off fucking Nazi Germany. If you haven't realized that by now. Fucking Vader's Hitler, and all the troops are like Nazis. And I'm not bullshitting, look it up. He literally did that. It's pretty obvious, too, especially in A Force Awakens when the dude's, like, yelling like Hitler on the, see, I don't remember the fucking planet from Force Awakens. So let's get into my personal favorite Star Wars movie, and I'm sure a lot of people... Maybe not you, but a lot of people, if it's not this one, it's probably this one, which is Empire Strikes Back. This takes place in 3 ABY, our first entry in the After Battle of Yavin. This is arguably the most iconic Star Wars film of all time. We see Hoth, we see the iconic AT-AT, AT-AT, however you want to say it, fight on Hoth. Vader is as menacing in this movie as ever. He just has no fucks. If you're one of his officers and you do one thing wrong, boom, go to see Lord Vader, you're done. You're going to get force choked out. You see, this is basically the reason this movie is so good is this is basically the rebellion getting their ass handed to them for an hour and a half long. Probably, it's like a 2-hour movie. You meet I would argue, the most iconic character in Star Wars besides Vader, which is Yoda. Some of my favorite lines in all of Star Wars, even in all of movies, is in this movie from Yoda. If you ever need a pick-me-up, watch Yoda's scenes. This man is speaking hella facts. Do or do not, there is no try is easily top 3 movie quotes of all time. That just encapsulates Yoda and the Jedi as a whole, and it encapsulates the human spirit in a way, and what humans should do. You just gotta do it. Fuck it. And obviously, which is and I know I meant to say in this one, I meant to say the most iconic lightsaber fight, not my favorite. My favorite is in Empire Strikes Back. Thanks, Billy, for pointing that out. And this is the Luke versus Vader scene. You could just see Vader just toying with him. And actually, now that I think of it, I've been thinking a lot. I think I do have a new favorite lightsaber battle, which is in Return of the Jedi, which we'll get to in a sec. But I'm always torn on either these two or Phantom Menace. So you see them fighting. You see probably, I'd argue, the most iconic plot twist of all time, which is Luke, I'm your father. Or no, he actually says, no, I'm your father, not Luke. That's a common misconception. But this is, I would love, if I had to pick a movie moment to go to besides seeing Back to the Future in theaters for the first time, I would probably go to 1980 and see this movie in theaters, because that theater must have been fucking insane, finding out that Vader is Luke's father. And I love the build up to it every time. You meet Lando, you see Sky City, you meet Boba Fett, which is a crazy thing that Boba was introduced in this movie. He has like 3 lines in the whole trilogy combined. And yeah, what else can't be said about this movie? 10 out of 10. Let's move on. Return of the Jedi, the finale of the original trilogy, is 4 ABY, only 1 year after Empire Strikes Back. And yes, there is, I know I wasn't going to I'm not putting it on the board, but there is a lot of comics that take place in between these movies that build more on Luke and Vader. You actually see Vader find out he has a son at the end of it. There's a comic that takes place in between A New Hope and Empire. You see Boba find out that Luke's last name is Skywalker. So it is a cool thing. I wish I was in the show and not a fucking comic. Like, no offense to comic readers. I'm a comic reader, but the majority of Star Wars fans watch the movies and shows. Anyways, rant over, sorry. Return of the Jedi, I'd say easily the most hated out of the original 3 just because of Ewoks. You have the beautiful scene in the beginning where you meet Jabba. You go to Jabba's palace. You see Leia. Come on now. That made the movie. You see the Rancor. You see Luke in his prime. This is prime Luke. All right, he walks in there with a fucking hood on. Who are you talking to? Get the fuck out of my way. Hand flick. Go down there. Kill the Rancor. He didn't kill Boba Fett. Han Solo did, blind, which doesn't make any sense. And then, so the beginning's okay. You get like 40 minutes of Ewoks, which is like, eh. Obviously, they're making toys. Obviously, Star Wars is for kids at the end of the day, like George Lucas said. And what really makes this movie is the final, I'd say, like, hour, where you just have Palpatine, Luke, and Vader talking. And you see this whole time, Vader conflicted. And he's been Vader for 20 years. He's finally seeing that Luke is right. And you have the beautiful scene on Endor where he's like, then my father is truly dead. And you see how much that hurts Anakin. I'm not even calling him Vader, because I don't think he was full Vader at this time. He was full Vader from Revenge of the Sith all the way to, I'd say, like right here, right before Return of the Jedi. And Luke was the only one to make him Anakin again. Or you could say, in Obi-Wan Kenobi, when they're talking, when Anakin says, you didn't fail Anakin Skywalker, I did. I always viewed that as Anakin low-key slipping out of Vader for a second and trying to, like, put Obi-Wan at ease and be like, it wasn't you, it was me. And I feel like that was Anakin peeking through a little bit. That's a nice debate to have that I might make a video on, because it's really interesting. But this is where I say my favorite lightsaber battle might be. Is I was watching that the other day, and it's just Vader toying with Luke to the point where he finds out he has a sister, and he uses that against Luke. And what's really cool, if you go back and watch it, Luke's wearing black the whole time. He's wearing black, and this is teasing his turn to the dark side. This is the closest Luke, I guess you could say, gets to the dark side, even though he always was light, which I'll talk about in a minute. The whole film, he's in black. He's encased in black. He's toying with it. He's like, should I join my father? Is Palpatine right? Is he right low-key? And after the fight with Vader, he's talking with Vader, which is honestly, I think I talked about this in one of my videos, might be my favorite scene in Star Wars recently that popped up. And this is when Vader and Luke talk to each other. I get teary-eyed thinking about it. It's such good dialogue. The build-up of all these movies comes to this, where the son's, your son's love, helps you. And basically, Luke bends over, his flap comes open, you see that white was inside all along, the black, and that turns that Luke was on the light side the whole time. Beautiful visual storytelling. That's why this show and Breaking Bad are so fucking good. And you have the iconic scene of Vader killing Palpatine, which makes this movie a piece of shit because they bring Palpatine back. Vader coming back and killing Palpatine is one of the most fuck yeah moments I've ever had watching a movie series. It's everything I ever wanted, just finally seeing Vader be like, you're right, fuck you, and throw him over. The man who caused him so much pain throughout, 20, 30 years, finally throws him over. And the originals, he never said no. It's like a look of, you don't need words to display that. It's like, man, that's why Mandalorian's so good, right? You don't need to see his face. You can just tell by the body language. And Luke Anakin looking back and forth at his son, finally like, fuck no, that's my son. That's my last thing I have connected to Padme besides Leia. Fuck you, old dude. Throw him over. Not canon. Sorry. And you have to, obviously, the beautiful scene where Luke and Anakin are talking. Like I said, my favorite dialogue in Star Wars, where Luke says, I have to save you, and Anakin says, you already have. I get teary-eyed thinking about it. I don't give a fuck if that makes me a nerd. That is some good-ass writing, and it just gives me chills every time. And he says, tell your sister you're right about me, and he brings Vader back to Endor, burns his body, and you see Anakin join Obi-Wan and Yoda as Force Ghost. Beautiful, beautiful. That should have been it right there. Not these new movies. So now we get to Mandalorian, which is 9 ABY. 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Arguably some of the best Star Wars content ever produced. You meet Mandalorian, you meet Baby Yoda. You see their dynamic of Din Djarin kind of dropping his roots of Mandalorian, thinking Mandalorian's everything that makes him, which it isn't. You see him become, at the end of the day, it's just a father and son duo, which is fucking hilarious. Season 2 especially, first off, Season 1 ends with the Darksaber, which is the biggest what the fuck moment ever, because if you remember, Darksaber was in Clone Wars. This is actually the first time you see something from the animated show that was created in the animated show come in live action, was the fucking Darksaber. I was shitting myself. I was like, what the fuck? Season 2, I mean, obviously, you meet Bo-Katan from the Clone Wars in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and she basically challenges Din Djarin's approach to the Mandalorians. They take their helmets off. Din is like, what what are you doing? And if you don't know, in Clone Wars, there's different types of Mandalorians. I don't have time for that shit. There's too much lore with Mandalorians alone. So, and obviously, season 2 of Mandalorian, you see Luke motherfucking Skywalker in his prime from Return of the Jedi. Hype shit. One of the most hype moments of all time. I almost I think I shed a tear. I don't give a fuck. I don't mind Luke in the sequels as much as other people do. That's not even my main gripe of the sequels. But seeing Luke, OG Luke from Return of the Jedi, I thought I'd never see that again in my life. Even though I'm only 22, I thought I'd never see that. The voice was good. The CGI was alright, but you can get over it if it's good Star Wars shit, and it was. You see R2-D2 again. He takes Baby Yoda. We haven't even gotten to the best post Return of the Jedi Luke yet, which we'll get to in a sec. But overall, great addition to the story. This is how you do Star Wars after Episode 6 and all that. It's just these isolated stories somehow connected to the originals, but don't rely on the originals a lot, which I guess Season 2 did a little bit with Luke, but I feel like it fit the story, because who else are you going to give Grogu to? Everyone's fucking dead at this point. Book of Boba Fett, I don't have it on my timeline. Book of Boba Fett, I couldn't really find it anywhere. I think it's 10 ABY. Obviously the beginning of Book of Boba Fett takes place right at 4 ABY, like right after Return of the Jedi, because it has to catch you up with how Boba was on Tatooine for like 5-6 years with the Tuskens, which is a really cool dynamic. This show's okay. Nothing really big happens. You just see him become, the mayor of Mos Espa, I think it is. I don't think it was Mos Eisley, it was Mos Espa. And you have Fennec Shand, who's a great addition to Star Wars canon. And what's sad is the best 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett are the ones with the fucking Mandalorian in it. The 5th one was you finally see Mandalorian come back after the sad ending of Mandalorian Season 2, where he gives up Grogu. I fucking cried when that happened. I'm sorry. The way Grogu touches his face, come on. And you see Mando get a new ship. You see him, he's like, oh, I have to go visit an old friend. You see Luke Skywalker again. You see him, and it's amazing. I almost cried. The CGI looks way better, the voice way better. You see him jumping in the forest with Baby Yoda, which is something I would never imagine to happen ever in Star Wars. And it's such a great callback to Empire Strikes Back, where, Yoda is teaching him, now he's teaching Grogu. Such a great dynamic. You see Ahsoka Tano in... I also forgot to mention that in Mandalorian, you see the first live-action appearance of Ahsoka Tano, played by Rosario Dawson. You see her in Book of Boba Fett meet Luke. It wasn't even like a build-up. All of a sudden, she's just there next to Luke. And I'm like, she met Luke? What the fuck? She mentions Anakin? I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna cry. Great addition. And now we're gonna get to the final 3, which, good movie. Come on. This one's good. Force Awakens is good. The other 2 are questionable. Force Awakens is 34 ABY. This one's 34 ABY. As you know, they take place back to back. This one's 1 year after, 35 ABY, which is the farthest in the Star Wars canon we have gotten to at this point in 2022. Force Awakens really isn't that bad, and I don't think people should shit on it that much. It's not one of my it's not one of in the top tier of Star Wars, but it's not bad. You get some really great shit in it. You see Han Solo again, and this was like the first time you've seen him since 1983. Obviously for us, since we're younger, it's not that long, but. You see Han and Chewie again, which I even got teary-eyed in the teaser trailer for the fucking movie. So I don't, and this is up there with one of the best premieres I've gone to. It was December 15th, 2015. I went with me and a couple of buddies, and just seeing like these 50-year-old dudes dressed as Jedi with their little kids, and they're showing their kids Star Wars for the first time. Something very wholesome about it, and that's what's unique about Star Wars, and I don't even think Marvel rivals, is that this is generational, and it will be around forever. I don't see Star Wars ever going away. They can easily just keep, making stuff for the new generation, and I'll show my kids Star Wars. And mine will be, obviously, like, the prequels and all that, but I'll still show my kids Star Wars, and I don't think they'll ever go away. So, you meet Rey, you meet Finn. Finn was shit on in the sequels, guys. I wish they would do better with him. You basically see, and this was the most interesting because you want to know who Rey's parents are. She has these powers. You see the Millennium Falcon again. You see Leia. You find out that Luke has basically cut himself off from the Force, and you're just really questioning why he did that. The ending of the movie is so iconic. She flies to the planet. You see old Luke there. He takes his hood off with the Force theme playing. Such good shit. I remember the hype when that movie ended. Man, I wish they lived up to it. I'm just kind of going past these quick because they're kind of new and not a lot of people care as much as these, but Last Jedi, I'm going to say something very controversial right now. My opinion on Last Jedi was wrong. I think this movie's overhated. A lot of people hate it because of how they treated Luke. And I even mentioned in this video that the Luke we see in these movies is not as good as this. No shit. You're not going to get a Luke better than Return of the Jedi. But I feel like people are blinded by that. And I think the way Luke acts in these sequels is very understandable because he's right. The Jedi, the biggest problem with the Jedi are their hubris. They think they know what's going on. That's the whole reason. And Luke even mentions this in the Last Jedi. Roll the clip.
The legacy of the Jedi is failure. Hypocrisy, hubris.
That's not true.
At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
And did you
See, he mentions it. He basically says they let Palpatine build up all this time and take over, and they didn't do anything about it because they refused to believe that they were letting this guy build up in power. They ignored anyone who said anything, and they just kept living like nothing was going on. And he calls it out on it. So his take is, the Jedi should end. Everything should end. Which, yeah, it's a little, erratic. Maybe you shouldn't do that. But I do see his point where, and it does make sense because the rule of two, right? Or the light and dark. You need light, you have dark, there's balance. You need, as bad as the dark is, you can't just have light because that's not balanced. And that's what he's saying. If the Jedi keep, that's the problem. Before Phantom Menace, the Jedi were around for hundreds of years with no enemy, and it was just them building up, and it's unbalanced. So that's how the Sith, came back up to be, and now it's balanced again. So that's what he's trying to basically say. Luke dies in this movie, guys. I also forgot to mention Han dies in Force Awakens. They fucking kill everyone. There was no reunion between the old characters, which is the biggest missed opportunity of all time. Last Jedi, you have the whole subplot with the casino, which is dog shit. Take that out of the movie. Finn's okay in this movie. I mean, he kind of has the same character arc as he does in Force Awakens, where he's scared of, he's kind. I guess by the end of the movie, he's not scared of the First Order because he fights Phasma again. So I guess that is a little development, but he's still like, we gotta have to run away from here. The First Order are following us. Come on, make a new character arc for him instead of him yelling "Ray!" the whole fucking movie. Come on. This is the only Star Wars movie without a lightsaber fight. Shit. Okay? That part's shit. I do like the throne room scene where Kylo and Rey do team up. That is badass. Yes, if you pick apart the fight, there is some continuity errors. Who gives a fuck? It's a Star Wars movie. There's talking like puppets and shit walking around. Who cares if there's a couple of continuity errors? That fight's badass. The whole final scene where Luke just shows up, I don't get how people don't think that's Luke Skywalker, the legend, because he is a legend. He walks in with a fucking cape. Everyone's staring at him. He kisses Leia on the forehead, says, "Han's always with you," which is very emotional. And he walks out to face the First Order all by himself. There's like hundreds of people just staring at him. Music's going crazy. And he's just cocky. He's just like his father. He walks out there and goes like this, just like Anakin. And he fights Kylo without even being there. And he basically tells him, like, "I will always be there to fuck with you," basically. And he says he will not be the last Jedi. And this is what I don't get. Luke literally had a character arc in this fucking movie. He says there's no Jedi. At the end of the movie, he's like, "I'm not the last Jedi. The Jedi will continue without me. I'm not going to kill the Jedi anymore. I realized I'm wrong. You can have Jedi, but it has to be different, right? We know our mistakes. We grow on them." I don't see the problem with that at all. And Luke dies. And this is the last movie with Carrie Fisher. Rest in peace. My opinion on Last Jedi has changed. I liked it. I didn't like it. I liked it. I didn't like it. Rise of Skywalker came out. I like it. Because at least this movie stays, grounded, I guess, to say. Rise of Skywalker, I really don't want to talk about this movie. My friend Jordan, if you're watching this, which I'll send you the video just so you do, you know what I'm talking about. This movie's fucking ass. We've had many debates about this. 35 ABY. I just get sad thinking about it. Probably the top 5 best written quotes of all time, which is "Somehow Palpatine returned." You bring one of the best villains of all time back with a throwaway line, "Somehow Palpatine returned." It's just ridiculous, okay? And also, the whole movie, they keep talking about this speech that Palpatine made. This eerie speech saying he's back. Guess what? It's not even in the fucking movie. You know where it's at? You know the only place you can hear it? Fortnite, ladies and gentlemen. You bring back Palpatine. You know how you find out Palpatine's back? Fortnite season, 8? Are we kidding? Disney? What are we doing? The only way you can hear that is go Google Palpatine's speech. It's eerie. It's pretty cool. Fortnite. Fucking people doing this next to you while Palpatine's talking about coming back. Fucking dude who's been around since 83. Dun, dun, dun. Palpatine talking back. Fuck you for this, Disney. I'm sorry. Sue me. Well, invite me to your red carpets if I blow up, please. I love you. I don't even really want to talk about this movie. I mean, the trio, Rey, Poe, and Finn, do have cool moments together. Like, they're getting along, which I wish we saw here. I mean, you don't wait till that's like Luke, Han, and Leia's... You know how in Empire Strikes Back, Luke, Han, and Leia had banter back and forth that was funny as hell? You wait till the last movie in the trilogy to do that with your main core trilogy? No, that doesn't work. Finn is sadly reduced to nothing. I feel so bad for John Boyega. He's a great actor. They were obviously setting him up to have the Force. I mean, that's what should have happened. He should have been the Jedi. Go from Stormtrooper to Jedi. That's such a good storyline. Why aren't we doing that, Disney? What are we doing? And then the movie, he's just, oh, Rey, I feel something. I can't tell you. Ooh, the sand goes in his fucking mouth. 3 minutes later, never mind. And at the end of the movie, they don't even say it outright in the movie. He just says, the only reason you know is because he's like, it's that one. And the girl's like, why? He's like, I have a feeling. That's it. And it's supposed to be like musical fanfare. What the fuck? Like, you're gonna fuck Finn over for that? Fuck you for that. Poe, what does Poe do in this movie besides look good? Nothing. Rey, what does she do in this movie? But she kills Palpatine. Ladies and gentlemen, you have... This is going to turn into a rant, but fuck it. This is the finale of the video. You have all these movies, show them, oh my god, like 40, 60 years at this point, that Anakin Skywalker is your chosen one. And you're telling me he was the chosen one to bring peace to the galaxy for 34 years, ladies and gentlemen. 30 years. You have got to be shitting me. That is ridiculous. There were some good moments in this movie. Let's talk about the good for a second. I like to stay positive on this channel. Han talking to Kylo. Great scene. I love that scene. Maybe it's his father-son connection. I don't know. Seeing Han again was great. Especially since we know Harrison Ford doesn't really like Han Solo that much playing him. The music was good. The intro was good. Seeing Kylo easily carries these 3 fucking movies. He's the best character in these movies besides obviously Han. And he carries these movies hard. His acting is great. The one thing I forgot to mention in this movie that they do in Rise of Skywalker 2 is the dyad between Rey and Kylo. I thought that was pretty cool. The Force dyad. How they're so connected in the Force that they can basically touch each other almost and like bring items between each other thousands of miles away. I thought that was pretty cool. Vader's helmet, you see, you're like, holy shit, it's Vader's helmet, goes nowhere. The Chewie death fake out, what the fuck was that about? I mean, it would have been good if 3 minutes later you find out Chewie's still alive. Okay? And also, I went into this movie knowing what happens. If you don't know, the script got leaked like 2 months beforehand. And it was terrible. Everyone's like, oh, I hope this isn't the movie. I sat down in that movie, I was like, the first 5 minutes, I'm like, this is gonna suck ass. I didn't tell anyone, I'm like, I shook my head, I'm like, this is it, huh? This is shit. And this was the low point of Star Wars, right? This movie comes out, there's really nothing to do. Then thank God Mandalorian came out. If Mandalorian didn't come out, Star Wars probably would have been dead as fuck right now. Mandalorian, even Book of Boba Fett, and all that saved it. And obviously Clone Wars. Clone Wars coming back for the final season was nuts. That was during COVID. But anyways, this wraps it up. Palpatine kills himself with his own lightning, the 3rd time in this trilogy? I mean, he burns himself in this one, kills himself basically with this one. And, yeah. I mean, the other cool scene, which I really liked, was all the Jedi talking to Rey. I thought it was cool. And that's what I will fight people, I guess, is... Like I said earlier, right? Rey kills Palpatine. She technically didn't because it was basically all the Jedi in her. But you really don't know that in the movie. You have to... That's like one of the producers saying that. Like in the script it says that, right? They should have conveyed that in the movie. And there's a great edit online that you can look up where each time you hear a voice and each time she takes a step towards Palpatine, one of their Force ghosts appears, right? Takes a step Anakin. Takes a step Mace. Takes a step Qui-Gon. That would have been so good. Just... all the Jedi finally coming together to be like, fuck you, Sheev Palpatine. You've been causing mayhem for like 40 years. Kill yourself. And he just dies. That would have been so cool, but they didn't do that. And Rey just starts basically building her new Jedi Order. And she buries her lightsabers on Tatooine, which doesn't make any sense to me personally, because, you know, you bury your... Okay, listen, let's think about it. Anakin was a fucking slave on this planet for, 9 years. His mom died on the planet. Luke hates this fucking planet. Aunt Beru and Owen died on this planet. What's good? What good with the Skywalkers happen on Tatooine? They fuck off to the galaxy. No one wants to go back there. Tatooine's shit, right? Why bury their lightsabers there? Luke's like, Yeah, good job, Ray. You buried it right where my fucking Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen burned to death viciously, and then Anakin's mom was kidnapped and killed. No, sorry guys. Shit movie. Sorry, the rant's over, guys, but you know, I'm not the type to be like, they're not canon. As much as I would like them not to be canon, they are, and we have to accept it. I feel like Mandalorian would be so much better if the sequels did not exist, because we're getting new Luke, but I feel like they have a chance to do what the Clone Wars did, which is make the prequels better. Clone Wars makes Revenge of the Sith even better than it was, and I feel like they can do that with these movies. But this is a timeline, guys, as of 2022. Maybe, 10, 20 years from now when I have little Joey's running around, I'll make another one. But this is it. Billy? Alright, so my video file got corrupted here at the end, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's not like a hardcore timeline video, but I just want to talk about the movies, talk about the shows, and have a good time, and just, obviously have a little rant there at the end. Thank you guys so much for watching. Reviews coming soon. I love you all. Bye-bye.